Okay, hello everyone. Today we're going to make a Western tie-down, and this will help complete my Western roper saddle set. And we'll just talk really quickly. Hopefully this will be a quick video today. We're going to talk really quickly about the supplies that you need. You're going to need some type of either a leather lace, or in this case here I'm going to use my skinny ribbon, 1/16 inch. You want it definitely flat because they should be unobtrusive. And then you're going to need a couple of buckles, a 3mm jump ring, and a hook. The other thing you're going to need is some way to actually make the form of the tie down. I've picked an inexpensive wire. It's about a 24 gauge, and I've cut a length that I think will be long enough for the model I'm going to use, which is the Smarty Jones model. And in this case here, I cut about see if I can get that right. It's about 6.5 inches, almost 7 inches. That should give me plenty to work with. And then you're going to need something to cover this. Now, usually I would I just go ahead and use my tubing. This is a pre-braided, like a friendship bracelet type of tubing strand. I got it at Walmart, and you could just remove the center string and then just go ahead and feed this on, and that's a quick way to do the cover. But then you're limited in whatever colors you can use. So sometimes you want to make these, you know, like for gaming saddles, you'd want to make it like bright red or pink or whatever to go with all of the other things. So I'm going to show you how to use just regular floss instead of doing my preferred way. I'll show you how to do that. First thing that we need to do is get this prepared. We're going to create a loop down here at the bottom, and it's going to be just a loop like that. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and bend it back the other way so that it's this is where we'll put our tie down, the actual strap. So you want to make it big enough that you can put that in there, and it can be elongated or it can be round. And I'm just trying to get the right shape here. So that's probably better because I can get the strap on there and it should be room to cover it too. Once you get that, the size that you want, then we're going to get the model, and we're going to see just how long this needs to be to get around the nose. So here's my model, and I'm going to, it always fits up here. It's never down here, so we need to make sure we got room. So I'm checking underneath. Yep, I got some room in there, so that I can get it off the model, right? So it needs to be something that easily slips on and off the nose. See that? So I might give it just a little bit more, just in case. I think that's about right, and you might want to experiment with that until you get it the diameter you want. Once you have it the diameter you want, then you're going to take this other wire, the one that doesn't have the loop on it, and then just go ahead and wrap it around the loop that you created, and that should hold it in place. So that way you have something that looks like this. I'm going to bring that way, and then that should hold that way. Smash it in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim off the excess. All right, so that's what we're going to cover with some floss, and the floss will actually work better in some ways than my tubing, because you can remove some of the threads in order to, you know, wrap these other areas. So let's see if we can't get that tip worked in there real quick. And then we're going to make sure we like the shape, because it's a little bit, should be narrower down here on the bottom, and then it should go to around on the top. So something like this, and you can play with it until you get it exactly how you want it. So it's going to look something like that. Be sure to fit it to the model before you start covering. Make sure it's the right size, and that it's going to fit in the right place. And it's actually a little too narrow down here, so I'm going to bring that open, but make sure it's going to fit the right way, that it's not too narrow, and just I want it to be symmetrical. So all right, pretty much where I want it, how I want it, and when it's held with the headstall and the strap, that should be about what I'm looking for. Okay, so now we'll just take some of this. It should be a decent length. I'm doing, this is a third pull. So I've done 3 pulls, so that's 3 of these lengths, which should give me enough. If not, we can, I'll show you how you can add more. And then you want to cut this. Hang on, I gotta get scissors. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and cut this. Okay, now you'll be using a lot of glue, but that's fine. Glue is not expensive. So we're gonna basically start in here. And we're gonna start wrapping. Now I've started inside the loop, and now I'm gonna come outside the loop, I started inside the small loop. I'm going through the larger loop, and then I'm gonna start wrapping. My tail is right here, so I'm wrapping the tail inside. And when I get to a point where I think it might be a little bit too hard to handle, I'm going to put some glue on there. So I think I'll do one more wrap, and then I'll put some glue. Now you can get it thinner this way by kind of twisting your thread so that it lays flat as you go around. I think if you can kind of see what that looks like really quickly. So I'm trying to open it up. So I've got 6 strands, and that they're going to lay flat instead of round. Okay. And then that's getting to be, that's definitely needs time for some glue. White glue should hold this pretty good. And it dries transparent, so you should be good. I'm just going to kind of push that in there. And then we're going to continue. And I'm just going to do this all the way around, all right? I won't make you watch me because this can be really boring. But anyways, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep wrapping until I get right here to the end, okay? Okay, so I've wrapped all the way around, and there's glue holding it on, and it's pretty much dried. So now we need to go ahead and wrap. We want to cover up the metal, so go ahead and whatever it takes, and you might have to have a few wraps to get all this metal here covered. And yes, there usually is a little knot there. If you don't know, this is also very similar to the way Bozell bridles are made. Don't know if you've heard of a Bozell, but it is basically this this loop on the horse's nose, and then reins coming off of this hook. It's often used on young horses before they're introduced to a bit. Allowing you to get some control without yanking on their mouths. All right, so now that I've wrapped that and glued it, and you'll see that, you know, the glue that I use, which is just sticky glue, what's it called, tacky glue, which is just get it at Walmart, but it doesn't have a lot of water in it, so it dries pretty quickly. All right, so the next thing we need to do now is to cover this here. I apparently have way more than I need, so I have to figure out what's the best way to do this. Yep, there we go. So I just put it in through the loop, and now I'm going to do exactly the same thing here that I did on the bigger one. I'm going to keep wrapping, and remember to get less bulk in there, to twist your strands so that they lay flat. You saw what I did there. If you can see that there's like all 6 strands, so when I wrap it, it covers more flatly. So this one's going to be, I'll probably be gluing as I go along. I'm going to try, that should work, pulling that up through there. And I might even put the glue just right on the metal itself so that I can glue it every step of the way. There's a little glue there on my finger. I'll use that. So I'm just going to keep doing that all the way. Okay, so there you go. I've covered the back end. And now, basically, I'm just going to do one more loop. I'm going to glue that in place. In fact, I'll probably glue before I do, just to make sure I got a good stick. extra glue. Alright, so if you notice it's nice and tight all the way around. It's not real thick. I didn't want to add a lot of thickness to it. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this off, and then I'll set it aside to dry because we still have some other things to do. So there you go. That's what it looks like. We have to do our lengths of for the actual tie down itself. Let me go ahead and get that out. So I'm going to pull off a little bit of this. Now the first thing I need is just a small length that will be a buckle keeper. So it'll go from the hook on the cinch it'll hook to the cinch, and then it'll be a buckle that will allow the other piece to slide up and down. From my experience, it's not a very big piece. I'm going to say about 1.5 inches. Maybe 1 inch, depending upon your model, but I think 1.5 inches will be fine for this. I'm using ribbon, so I need a little bit more fold over than leather lace, because the ribbon does not necessarily take the glue as well as leather lace. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a buckle on this side, and I'll try to do it quickly because this is not. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit more fold over than I would on leather lace. And then, because it takes longer to dry, I'm actually going to put some clamps on this. I use these little ones. So hold it there, and then I'll go ahead and have this hold it. Now on the other side, I want a jump ring and a hook. So I will get my jump ring opened up. It's going to destroy my fingernail. I shouldn't use it. Okay. And then go ahead and close that up. Now if I wanted to, I could turn this into a D by smashing it. I'm not going to, but I could. Now I want the hook to face downward, because if hooks that face this way have a tendency to jiggle loose. So if it goes this way on the centering, it should stay on a little better. So that's what I'm going to put on this other side, which means I want I want it to be the back side of this. So that's where the fold over is. That's where I want the fold over for this ring to be also. So again, good amount to fold over because it's ribbon. All right. We'll go ahead and do that fold over. And as you see, it's not a very big strap once you're done. And I'll go ahead and get that. I'll probably pull that off right now. All right. And hold that on there too. The next thing we need is to go from this loop here to between the horse's chest. So you can measure that by, and if you get a little bit too much, it's okay. That's what the buckle is for. Now, it'll go through this loop here. This is your tie-down loop. So it's going to go somewhere between the legs. I'll go all the way down to the centering, just to make sure I have enough. And then up to the horse's chin. That should be more than enough. On this horse, because of his head, this is going to be relatively tight. Horses with their head down, it would be looser. Same about the same length, but it would not be as tight on a different animal. So that's going to be about right. Now, one of the things when using, and this is only for ribbon has a tendency to fray. So what I like to do, I mean, you could use fray check, which is another thing that'll work, but I just go ahead and put some glue on both sides, and then I let that let that dry, and then later I'll clip that to a point. Right now I really couldn't do it without it fraying, so that'll just give it some stability. And then we're going to put a, why did I have two buckles? I don't have two buckles. We're going to put this in here. Right like that. Give it, so I want it to be a loop because I want it to be loose so it can pivot. And I guess I only needed one buckle. What did I think I needed the other buckle for? I don't recall. Okay, so now we're going to hold that like that. This should be dry now, so I'll show you. I can go ahead and clip that to a point, make it easier to buckle. I need to get new clippers. I'm losing the edge. Okay, so now I have a point, and it's not likely to fray because I put that glue on there to hold it. Then pretty much now we can buckle it, and we're going to want to make one keeper. Now I'm going to actually make a ribbon keeper, which is a bit of a pain. But I'm going to make a ribbon keeper right here from my buckle strap that holds this little strap in place. You've seen me make keepers before, but I'll try and keep it pretty quick. This will have to be held for a while, so what I'll do is I'll make this, and then I'll come back when everything's dry. Okay. So now we have to do the headstall. And this is what holds it on the horse. That's what I need my other buckle for. Yes, I was having a moment. All right. So you're going to need a cheek piece, just like with bridles. It's about 1.5 inches is the length of the cheek piece. I'm going to give it a little bit more for fold over. And then the head style itself, you can measure to the model. I think 3.5 inches is what I determined was on my Western head style, so it's going to be about that same length. But I'll go ahead and pull out the model, and we'll just do a quick measurement. It's not going to be quite as long because it's not going bit to bit, but we're going to go from right about here to the same place on the other side, and that should give me enough extra for any type of connections to the tie down itself. So let's see, I'll go ahead and cut this, and then we'll check measurements for you. Now obviously you want to know how to do it to a model in case you're doing, you know, smaller sizes, because fitting it to the model is a lot more accurate than using measurements. So sorry, this is upside down. Actually that turned out to be about 4.5 inches for the headstall, and then it was about 2 inches is what I ended up with. I said about 1.5 inches, but it was leather lace because you can use less fold over. I got 2.25 here. For the cheek piece. It's a good thing I measured it because I was way off. All right, so while the my keeper is still drying, you have to determine what you want the right side. I usually, horse's nose goes in this direction, which means my fold over is facing up towards the horse's head instead of down to the ground. So that's what I'm going to determine is top and bottom. So we're going to, first thing we'll do is create we're going to take our bigger piece, and I want the buckle on the left hand side, so I'm going to do this over here on the right, and I'm going to give it make it a loop so that it can slide. Makes it easier to place it on your model so it doesn't get in the way of the bridle. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll clamp that. Now this here is going to need the other buckle, which is what the other buckle was for. And I made a really long video yesterday. I only have so much time. I got so much to do today, so we're going to go ahead and do the buckle on this side. And like I said, more than normal because it's ribbon. Ribbon needs more than normal to get the hold. And go ahead and clamp that in place. All right, if it clamped in place, no, it moved. All right. Okay, on this end here, I'm going to do that trick to not let it ravel. I'll have to do it again when I actually fit it, because this is probably longer than I need, because I always go longer. Found it's always easier to go longer than to waste an entire piece because it's too short. See how it's beginning to unravel? I don't know if you can see that little thread. So by doing what I just did, it'll stop it from unraveling. And then once it's dry, I'll go ahead and clip that to a point and make it easier to buckle it. Right? Okay. And now it won't unravel. All right, let's see. I think my keeper is finally dry. That was painful. It took a while. So we're going to check and make sure it's not glued. It is kind of glued. All right, we'll loosen that up. All right, good. So now I know I can rebuckle that. You always want to check that before it gets too dry, so that you can remove that second layer. And I always like to know how thick that keeper needs to be. All right. So this other end, now that we've got buckle pretty much set up, this other end also we need to make a loop, and we need to make a loop with my buckle facing on the outside, and then make sure my turnover is going to be on the inside. So here's where you can actually do some adjustment. I think that was probably a little long for him. And I don't want to get in the way of the bridle buckle, so this is going to be too long. I already know that. So you might want to fit it to him, find out where you want that buckle to lie so it doesn't get in the way of the bridle. You don't want bridle or buckle buildup on the horse's face. So we're going to go with a little bit shorter like that, and fairly certain that's going to give me plenty. So I way overdid it. All right. And then I'm making a loop, so I'm not doing the glue too close to the tie down. I'll go ahead and hold that in place. I'm going to go ahead and let it dry a little bit, and then on to the next step. Okay, so that's your finished keeper. I'm sorry, your finished tie down. What I did do while I was off camera is I added another keeper on this side to keep that down. And so now what we need to do is fit it to the model. And I do the steps so that somebody asked me to do, how do you tack up a model? Well, I mean, it depends upon what they're wearing and everything. So what I'd like to do instead is just show you how each piece works, which is why I'm kind of taking time to do the fitting to make sure that as you create a piece of tack, or you can also use this for tacking up, that you can see how it's supposed to fit. Now we're using Smarty Jones, so I went ahead and undid my strand so that I can fit it through that tack up hole, right? So that hole was created for your bridles and things like this. Now you see it's not going to add a lot of bulk underneath my bridle. That's important. And we'll go ahead and I'll flip them over and we'll buckle them up. Good. It's a good fit actually. It's actually a really good fit. Okay, and then you know, if you have to like make it a little bit narrower, you can do that too. Point is, this should be the center bottom of the chin, right? And then it should be up high on the nose. If it's too low, you're actually impeding his ability to breathe. So the next thing we're going to do, we have the saddle. I'm sorry if I'm flipping this guy over, but I'm right-handed, so I kind of need it in this direction right now. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is there's this loop in the breast collar. We got a loop in the breast collar, and we're going to feed this through that loop. All right, and make sure we don't have any twists or tangles in that. That should just go straight. And then we'll go ahead and rebuckle without any twist. It had a twist in it, so definitely needed to undo it. And I'm just going to do, I'll adjust this once I get it hooked. Like I said, this guy's head is up and out, so this should actually be tight on him. Other models, if their head is down, the strap would be loose. Basically, you're trying to put the horse's head where you want it, and I'm assuming that this is where the rider wants the head. All right, and then underneath the model, is a cinch ring. And I already know that this is going to be too long, but we're going to take this hook. This is where tiny fingers helps. All right, we're going to take this hook, and we're going to go ahead and hook it right onto that front ring. Behave yourself. This is where people don't like metal around their models, and I don't blame them. And it can be on either side of the breast collar hook, that's fine. And if you notice now it's hooked, and then the last thing we'll do is we're going to pull this tight, and that'll determine how long this strand here is going to be. So I'll go ahead and pull that tight. So this cut's going to be pulled tight. I'm trying to do this so you can see it. So we'll go ahead and pull that tight, and you'll see then now his head is being held down, so it can't go any higher because it is already up pretty high. And then now I know what, you can't really see that either. There you go. So now I know I need to go ahead and cut this and glue it and put a point on. That's what it's going to look like. Holding the horse down. Should be. Now you can adjust these down further so it doesn't get into the eyeball. Remember that because we left these loose, these loops can be placed anywhere you need to, and that's pretty much it. Let's see, make sure that's further down so it's not getting his eyeball. There we go. So now I can put the bridle on over this, and he's good to go.